So this might seem like a bit of a weirder video, but a lot of you ended up asking me whether or not I would end up playing the First Descendant. And while I did actually play the beta multiple times, I played the first beta way back in the day. It didn't click for me, but then I ended up playing the more recent beta and it did. You know, I got it. I understand why people were talking about and why people were wondering whether I would play it. I've since made that video for members only. It's about an hour's worth of me playing through the game, and more so this video is so that we can summarize and talk about it, because in my experience with the game, I think that it's one of those games that is going to be like Lost Ark. So what do I mean by that? Well, when I played the beta for Lost Ark, it kind of made me feel the same way the First Descendant did, where I could see very, very clearly how the game was designed to encourage monetization. So the First Descendant starts out with a really impressive intro. Like I'm talking like this intro was crazy good. And then as soon as you're thrown into the hub area, it starts getting really confusing and strange. You notice a lot of shops from NPCs are quite literally cash shop oriented. Obviously you can still grind things free to play, but it's heavily monetized. They've got something similar to Warframe where a lot of the different characters will have variations, so like prime versions of them. But the one thing that I personally didn't like about Lost Ark and what I don't like about First Descendant is I feel like the game doesn't have an identity to call its own other than just looking really, really good. Like obviously First Descendant's in Unreal Engine, so it looks fantastic, and that's what a lot of people are focusing on. It's also in Unreal Engine, and so the movement of the character is really, really good as well. You have like a grappling hook and all of this jumping and stuff, and even the gunplay is really solid. So what is it about this game that just doesn't quite click for me? I don't know. It's Nexon. I've played their games before. You know, they're a great company for these free-to-play types of games, but they never really have much depth to them. Or maybe depth is the wrong term. It's more so that they don't have enough to get me hooked into them, because Nexon makes games that are similar to other games, the advantage being that they're like the free-to-play equivalent. And obviously, you know, Nexon games are really, really high quality. But moving back to the graphics, one thing that I really dislike about the whole Unreal Engine 5 stuff is I haven't really seen games have a unique style with their graphics. It's always just generic, really good, over-the-top graphics. And this game is no exception, save for like the first boss at the intro cutscene. That thing looked insane. I want to see more of that, please. But as soon as we ended up getting into the open world stuff, that's where it played like every other shooter. It was like Destiny 2, but it was third person instead of first person. The classes didn't seem to have any variation other than their abilities, obviously, because the guns are pretty much all play the same. And I don't know, there's just something about the game. Again, I enjoyed my time with the beta. I had fun with it, but am I excited for the full game? Am I even gonna play the full game? No, this is not a game for me. Similar to Lost Ark, I enjoyed my time with it while I played it, but I could see the writing on the wall and tell that this was not really a game that would click with me, and more specifically, a game that would, over time, lose, after it would essentially end up having the huge spurt of people really hyped up about and talking about, then eventually people would start to move on from it. And, you know, similar to Honkai Star Rail, that's another game that, you know, absolutely everyone in my Discord was talking about that game when it first came out, and now nobody's playing it. And it's kind of like, I don't know if this has got to do with me being an older gamer or just more experienced with video games, or more particularly, it's probably got to do with me being a content creator and how I approach playing video games in the first place. Is I need to be able to have something that I can really dig my teeth into that is also entertaining enough for me that I can play it for hours on end, rather than having to play it on hours on end in order to grind up resources or items and stuff, you know? I think a lot of that obviously is just because I've already got another game that I've been grinding for many, many years, and I kind of already have everything in that game. I have no desire to follow that same game loop in another game that, in my opinion, is you know, has less identity, because say what you will about the video game trove that I've been playing on the channel, I still think it's one of the most unique games ever because it's a voxel MMO and we don't have any of those, you know? Whereas with the First Descendant, it's just generic shooter. Like straight up, it looks like everything else, and frankly speaking, there are other games that I've played that I would prefer to play. Like I dedicate a pretty definitive amount of time to Destiny 2 and even Warframe back in the day, and First Descendant just kind of feels like an amalgamation of those mechanics, similar to how Lost Ark was an amalgamation of Path of Exile and Diablo and stuff. Not Diablo 4, that's a complete new beast and it's terrible. But anyways, for those of you that cared to know what my opinions were of the First Descendant, that's that.